Hi, everybody. My name is Michael Pace, and I am a survivor of emergency aortic dissection that happened 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago now, in November 29th, 2021. I'm here to tell you my story and a little bit about myself, how I was able to, what led up to those events, and how I've been able to kind of get past it because it's not exactly a easy operation or an easy thing to swallow or digest for most people. It was very traumatic. But I'll tell you about myself first. I'm 38 years old. I live in South Florida in Coral Springs now. I'm a family man of a family of four, including myself. I have my lovely wife Sarah. We've been together for 16 years, 17 years coming up. And we've got our two beautiful children, Henry and Francesca. Francesca is 11 years old or going to be 11 years old shortly within the next 20, 30 days. And my son, Henry, who's 8. And I'm a little bit about myself. I'm very involved in my children's lives. I'm not a sports guy. I'm not someone that sits there and looks for the game on Sundays, but I spend bulk of my time and extra time with my family and friends and just trying to be a good human being. I'm very active. I very much love being outdoors and doing things around the house. And just that putzing around, that guy that's always in the front of his house, fixing things and twiddling with things. I'm that guy. And, I'm always on the bike or going to trampoline parks or just doing things with kids at all times. And, before my emergency surgery, I still lived the same life. I was very active. In 2018, I saw this picture of myself that I just didn't like. So from that point forward, I really made it a point to live healthy and choose the right things to eat and stay in shape. And nothing has really changed as far as like the in and outs of my life since then. Just more of just something to watch out with my regular checkups and being a little bit more involved in my health because of the fact that I went through this event. So what led up to that event was coincidentally enough on Turkey Day, on Thanksgiving Day, I woke up and I did my normal activities. I went into the garage to go do a workout, and it was a light workout. I was just starting to work with some resistant bands, and I had this little bubble I felt, I guess, in my chest and like a little bit of pain. So like probably 10 minutes into my workout, I just stopped. I went inside, told my wife, and was like, "Hey, listen, something doesn't feel right, but I'm okay. Well, let's just continue with the festivities." We went through Thanksgiving Day, and I said if everything was still there, if I was still feeling it the next day, I'd go into a walk-in clinic. I was never the person that had like the primary care doctor, but I always made sure to kind of stay aware of my health and whatnot. So if I ever needed to do anything, I did go into the walk-in clinics and whatnot. So the next morning I wake up and I still have this pain, and I go into the walk-in clinic, and they take a EKG. They say, "Hey, listen, you're fine as far as that goes. We think you have some sort of indigestion going on. Take these pills." So I grab the pills, and the next day I actually feel like that bubble, that little bit of pain in my chest, like just dropped and kind of went away. So hey, listen, it was indigestion, not that big of a deal, and I was moving on with my life. So a couple of days later, I'm walking around with the family at night. We either bike ride or walk or just spend afternoons with each other. So whatever that might be. So that night it just so happened to be that we're walking around the block, and we all of a sudden started getting really anxious and like very, I don't know, upset with the environment. My hands started getting clammy, and I started to all of a sudden just really feel anxious, right? So I tell my wife, I said, "Babe, we just got to go home. And we get home, and I sit up on the countertop in the kitchen. We've got like a bar stools and all that stuff. So I sat there for about 5 minutes, and this pain just came on, like really abrupt, like really strong, right back in the middle of my chest. So I tell her, I'm like, listen, I don't feel good. This doesn't feel good. So I'm gonna go into the emergency room because I just had this pain the few days ago and it went away. So I called my buddy down the street, Sean, and he doesn't answer, and he calls me back 5 minutes later. He's like, hey, what's up, man? What's going on? Like, how, you okay? Like, hey, I need to go to the emergency room, dude. Can you bring me up there? And he's like, yeah, I just got out of the shower. Let's go. Head up to the emergency room, and we check in, and it's crazy to say this, but I was in the emergency room talking to the head nurse, screaming at the top of my lungs in this pain. It just felt like it's really hard to describe, but it almost felt like a ripping pain. And for those of you that don't know what aortic dissections are, they're basically the ripping of the interior linings of your aorta, because it's built like an onion and there's several layers to it. So I'm screaming at the top of my lungs in the emergency room, and I go up to the this is going during COVID. I take the mask off because I'm in such pain, and the security guard is like, hey dude, you need to put your mask on. And meanwhile, I'm like, I feel like I'm dying, which basically which literally it's hard to explain. But so I go up to the head nurse. I'm like, hey, I need to be seen. There's something major going on here. I'm in a lot of pain. It's my chest. Like, there's got to be something. And she's like, we're busy. You got to wait. So my next door neighbor, he's a cop. He's a Wellington cop. His name's Heath Paulson. Super grateful for this individual. And I call him up and I say, hey dude, I'm like having problems here. I need you to you have any hookups at the hospital? He's a Wellington cop. You gotta have a hookup, right? He's like, hey, I'll be up there in 5 minutes. I see him walk through the door. He says, what's up? Waves to me, and he's walking through the door. He goes immediately into the back to the triage, and he sees the head doctor in charge, and he tells him everything that's going on with what I had at that moment. And the doctor tells him, he's like, he should be back here. What the hell? Like, why is he not back here? So I see Heath walk out the door. He's like, hey, he's going to see you in a few minutes, and he walks away. A few minutes later, I'm getting, not even a few minutes later, 30, 45 seconds later, I'm getting called. They're doing my vitals. I go in for a CT scan, and then I get back to the patient quarters, however you want to call it. They all have like the screen and whatnot. It wasn't exactly a room. And all of a sudden they start prepping me for something. I wasn't sure what it was. So I'm just sitting there like in pain, like what the hell is going on? So I talked to the nurse. I'm like, hey nurse, what's going on? Like, what are you guys doing? This is after the CT scan. And she's like, you got to wait for the doctor. And I'm like, well, you guys are doing something. I'm a big boy. Like, you can tell me, like, I need to know what the hell is going on. Meanwhile, my friend's trying to figure out what's going on. My wife doesn't know what's going on. And she's like, you're in a dire situation. You know, you had this aortic dissection. We need to put you in for emergency surgery. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess let's go. Let's get this moving. And I call my wife. I tell her what's going on, or me and my buddy Sean are trying to tell her what's going on. And she says that she saw me before I got transferred. I don't kind of remember, but there was a lot going on at the same time, or maybe it was at the other hospital. But then the next thing I know, I remember going into the surgery room, and something that I'll never forget is I'm sitting there talking to this anesthesiologist. His name's Adam. And Adam's like, you've got nothing to be worried about, man. We're going to pull through this. We're going to, just trying to keep my heads up. This is at JFK Hospital in Boynton Beach. And he's like, you're going to be fine. In 2 days, 3 days time, I'm going to see you sitting in a chair in ICU, and everything's going to be fine. You're going to be with your family. You're going to survive, and everything's going to be good. And that's exactly what I heard last before the anesthesia hit in. So I go through the surgery. Thank God I survived. The doctor, I told him, I said, you need to fix me before we go in. And And then I remember waking up briefly. I was kind of in and out of a coma. I remember waking up briefly and kind of like a crick in my neck. For whatever reason, I believed to be like in a net, and like a circular net. I wasn't in the net. I was in um, the bed. But I remember being in a net because I was coming out of this coma, right? And my head was cracking. I was trying to tell the doctor, like, I need you guys to move my head. It hurts. Like, you need to move my head. And I'm telling the guy, because I can't talk. I've got this ventilator in my mouth. I can't speak anything. So I'm like telling the guys, I'm like, I need something to write on. I need something to write on. I don't even know if what I wrote on was like able to be read. I don't even know if it was visible but it seemed to me like they got what they wanted and went back to sleep. And I woke up the next day when they took out the excuse me, the ventilator. So I was in the hospital for 7 days after the surgery, and they wouldn't let me out initially just because my blood oxygen level wouldn't go above, I think it was like 91 or something like that, 92. Anyways, it got back up there. They let me out, and now I'm back into the free world with this incision on my chest. And going through the hospital was tough because I could only see so many people during so many hours because, again, it was COVID. And there was, so I was happy to be home. I was happy to be with my kids again. I was happy to be with my wife. I was happy just to be alive, I guess. But from there was like start of a new life because I wasn't sure like what my limitations are, what I can do, what I couldn't do. And that's tough because it was all new, and especially because we didn't know why it happened. So we did a gene test. There was like 80 markers or 150 marker, whatever it was. So it came back negative. There's no reason that we can't say there's a clear reason why this happened other than it happened. So what I tell everybody is just a dumb luck situation. It's just something that I had to go through and move past. And I was able to move past. I enjoyed that time. I had 2 full months off, which for me in my industry is the busiest time of the year. I had November, December, and into January off, and that's like the busiest time of the year for my work. And just as I mentioned, I'm a very loyal person. I've been with my wife for a long time. I've been with my company for a long time. Just a very loyal person at heart. And so this was like the first 2 months I ever had off and had like a break, which was kind of interesting because, like I said, it was the busiest time of the year. But I got to utilize it to the best of my abilities. I spent a ton of time with my kids. We watched all the Marvel, superhero movies from start to finish. Towards the end, they were just like, can we watch something else, please? So it's like I had to do things to pass the time, and I had to do things to recover. So like I was like, as I mentioned, I was very much into working out and very much into keeping myself fit and just able-bodied. So I was just wanted to get into the working out and being back into it. So it's kind of like a carrot in front of me. So we did a lot of walks. I was walking around the pool constantly. I'd get on the phone with people and just talk to them and just walk around the pool. Very grateful for the support circle that I had throughout that time, whether it be my friends and family and my work family as well. And so I was clamoring to get back into the gym. And so I did go like I think it was like 3 months or something like that, 3-4 months before they let me just start gradually putting myself back into that environment. And I went back full force. Like I started lifting again and just adhering to the doctor's rules. But at that time, what we came to learn later on was that I still had active dissection because they replaced my valve, and they replaced my root. And then where the root is connected down to just above where I forget what the name of it is, but your aorta eventually pans off to your feet and your legs and whatnot. But I still have active dissection there. So we learned that later on once I went in for my normal CT scan. So I have to take like a CT scan every year, and then a echocardiogram every year. So we switch off every 6 months. So I go back in like maybe 6 months later after this, after the surgery, and my cardiologist was like, "Whoa, what is this? You know, you possibly dissected again." And we're like, "Whoa, let's go talk to the surgeon." And the surgeon's like, "No, it was there. It was in the notes. We just we saved your life that night. We didn't exactly do everything that needed to be done just because of the fact that they were there to save my life. So I still have that active dissection in the lower piece in my abdomen. But so something I need to keep on watching, I guess more of the story is here. And so as I'm doing all these CT scans and staying up and active, I made sure to find different ways to keep my mind at ease. Like up front, like after the surgery, like I felt like Superman a little bit. And I wanted to get back into the gist of things and into the routine of things, just because we're human. It's human nature. And now I've gotten to the point where yes, it's in the back of my mind, and things have changed a little bit. Like some things that 2 years ago didn't bother me now, and things 2 years ago that did bother me don't bother me now. So it's kind of weird how that survival mental shift happens. Because it's like little nuance things. I can go in for a massage, and sometimes I just need to like put my head up instead of like putting it in the pillow. Or I'm working on some other things as well. Like just you think through it a lot. You think through it a lot of the time, because you don't know why things happen. And like I mentioned, never had that closure as far as like why it happened. All we can say is it could have been this or it could have been that. So staying active and being in the moment is a lot more important to me. So what I've been able to do since then is I've been getting involved in these Spartan races. I'm sure some of you are familiar with it, some of you are not. And what it is basically a running portion with obstacles. It's an obstacle race. And I went and achieved my first one since my surgery, probably a year and a half ago. Something I set up with work um, as like a precursor for something that I did this year. And it was to get the understanding of how to organize these types of events, of getting individuals involved and signed up and moving towards the same goal. Because first and foremost, most people don't think they can achieve these Spartan races just because of the mental, they just think mentally they can't get over it. And they don't think that they have the abilities to do it. But a lot of the times people do have the abilities to do it. It's just that you need to get over that hurdle. So a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, we did our first one at work. And that to me was special because it was the first time doing it since my surgery, and I was able to complete it. And you never know if you can complete it or if you're going to die on the way there. I mean, I hate to put it that bluntly, but you have to kind of think about these things when you're a survivor. And so I was able to complete the Spartan the first time around, which was awesome, and great support group by the people at work. And then later on that year, I went and did a 10K one. The first one was a 5K one. I did a 10K one later on that year, and oh man, it felt so good. I even ran a 10K too. So I'm getting more and more into these races. So as I'm finding out that I enjoy these races and timing myself, I'm like, okay, well, what's the next level? Let's figure out a way to make people aware of this disease, or just, I guess, understanding your body, if you will. Because if I didn't say that to myself that night, like, hey, I need to go to the hospital, if I said to myself, this shall pass, like, it might not have been as great of a story as it's been so far, right? So so now this year, just this past year, we teamed up with Aortic Hope. Why I'm here now explaining my story is because I was researching for a charity to get involved with, because I wanted to do some philanthropy and kind of grow within work, because we have this great environment at work where we get a lot of support on things of these extracurriculars, if you will, whether it be charity drives or just doing good things for the environment or whatever the case may be. So I organized a Spartan race this year. It happened in, I think it was March, April, and we raised $1,500 for which, you know, so some might not seem like it's a lot, almost $1,500. Some might think it's a lot, and some might not. I think it was a hurdle for me because I didn't know how much, you know, and I'm super grateful for all those that donated. But we were able to raise $1,500 for the charity, as well as do a Spartan race as the team again. So last year we had 8 to 9 people. This year we had 18 people. And then next year, I'm hoping to have, you know, double that and double the donations and double the exposure. And that's why I'm really here, is because I wanted to tell you my story, bring awareness to everything that has to do with aortas and the diseases, and making sure you're aware of your body. But then also to the point, you know, just say that, hey, you know, after surgery, it might seem scary. Certainly is, you know, going through the motions and going through that night again, you know, is it's a constant reminder to you know, just take care of yourself. It's hard, it's not easy, but just being aware that you know, I you just never know. You just never know. Just raise your hand whenever you feel that way, whenever you feel something different, you know, and just make that choice, because, you know, ultimately that's your choice. It's not anybody else's choice. They're not going to make it for you. And you know, I'm just happy to obviously survive and be here and tell you my story. And I'm here to tell you that there is life afterwards. It's just, you know, just keep on moving forward. You know, I'm a positive individual. I try to breed positivity out into the world, and you know, I hope my story reaches somebody and means a lot for somebody. So that's my story.
Thank you, Michael. You tell a very good story, I must say.
Thank you.
We're going to start with saying hello to Molly and Christina. Molly says, thanks, Scott, for being here. So, I mean, I've taken a lot of notes for this one. I started taking notes immediately when you said you were 38 years old, because I forgot to ask. You don't look... You look ageless, so that's a blessing. Thanksgiving Day. This is when it all kicks off. Like,
yeah.
And 2 days later, you're screaming at the top of your lungs.
Just a couple days later. You know, it's really interesting, because if I didn't, you know, I went into a walk-in clinic and they just gave me, you know, they didn't have, you know, it's not their fault because they didn't have the proper diagnostic tools. Honestly, at the end of the day, they did an EKG to, you know, make sure it wasn't a heart attack of any sort, which, you know, that makes sense. But yeah, this isn't something that happens to 35 years old. You know what I mean? This is something that happens to ladies and gentlemen that are a little bit older and in the later part of their lives, because of the structural integrity and plaque buildup and all these lifestyle choices, you know, or genetics, you know, one of the two. And that's why, you know, I say it's a dumb luck situation for me, because at the end of the day, like, you know, all the biomarkers previously were not something to say. You know, I said in the beginning that I didn't really have a primary right before this.
That's my next thing to bring up.
but here's the thing. Here's the thing is that I'm not COVID vaccinated. So for when I wanted to go to concerts, I had to go get a COVID test every time. Every time I went to a concerts. That year, I just so happened to go to 5 concerts. So throughout the year, I have blood pressure work that was all pointing to a positive blood pressure. I've never been a high blood pressure person. You know, now they keep it artificially low. Mm-hmm. Now I'm like 108 over like 67, which is low. And my pulse rate is also low. Like my resting heart rate's around 54. So, you know, I don't get paid by them, but if anybody I would recommend the Whoop strap, because this thing keeps keeps a lot of the biomarker, and it keeps the sanity too, because it keeps me like, oh, and if I get a tick and I'm like feeling something and it's just like a body thing, I just automatically go to my app. Okay, is my heart rate fine? Is everything fine? Everything, you know what I mean? So for me, it's more of a mental clarity thing to keep things open and honest with myself. But yeah, I mean, like, even so, like, I don't even think if I had a primary, I would have been able to detect that beforehand, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
So it's very, it was all very lucky for me. I consider myself very lucky because of multiple things. One being my buddy Sean that night. If it wasn't for him being able to pick up his phone, he could have had something else that he was doing. Two, the hospital. Like, if I didn't have my next door neighbor cop come in and I had to sit there in the waiting room for longer, again, it's just, and then just so happens everybody, it was so funny after I was talking to all the nurses. I try to be very personable and ask you how your day's going and stuff like that. So as I'm talking to all the nurses and all that stuff, they're all like, oh, who's your doctor, who's your doctor, who's your doctor? And I was like, oh, well, it's Dr. Norris. And they're like, oh, well, he's the best for that surgery. So it just literally just lined up. And to me, I consider myself super lucky because of those things. And after meeting Dr. Norris afterwards, he's like, listen, I just enjoy the topic of aortas, right? I'm a cardiothoracic surgeon, but I enjoy aortic discussions. If that wasn't the case, like, it could have been a completely different situation, you know? So I very much keep that in the front of my mind. And that's kind of how I continue to, you know, make sure others are aware, and others are like, you know, we just had unfortunately, we just had somebody at work pass away just a few days ago. Somebody that I've
sorry.
known for quite a long time, somebody I worked for, somebody, you know, that was a good person down the heart. And it happened abruptly like this. 60-year-old guy, you know. But the thing is that you just never know when that point's going to be, right? So like, it's always important to make sure that you are aware of what's going on with your body. It's one thing a doctor can tell you, yes, no, maybe so, you know, but it's another thing to say like, hey, doc, this specific piece, you need to look at this piece right here because this is the piece that's bothering me. I know you're telling me about all this, but you need to tell me about this, you know? So, yeah, very, very crazy circumstances that led up to that point.
Now I was very touched when you brought up Heath. Like that's the kind of you know pivotal point. This neighbor walks through the door, marches in, walks right past everybody. They're like, "Oh, that's Heath. Yeah, we know him."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's very, very blessed to have him, you know, have in my life, you know,
Yeah.
and get me to this point. So
No, that's great, great. And so you're in emergency surgery, and so there's the chaos is everywhere, and you're just like, what's going on? Like as things get set up, now you're demanding answers, and I particularly like that after they've given it to you and things are going a little bit sideways, and you're trying to do your planning, your anesthesiologist shows up, and he's just like, you're in good hands. We're gonna talk in a couple of days, and just starts managing expectations, right? That's, you know, I don't often hear anesthesiologist testimonials in these stories, I must say.
I don't think I touched on this, and forgive me if I did. I don't think I touched on this, but sure as shit, 3 years late, 3 days later, Adam stopped by my room and I was sitting in the chair.
That's great.
And he walks up and he's like, Mike, I told you everything was gonna be fine. And you know, wow, it was powerful for me at that time because you know what, like I don't even know if I thought about it. I don't know if it like came to my mind, like, is this guy really gonna stop by and say what's up? Like, I don't know if that was like gonna be I don't know if that was just his gig to get people to stay positive because I feel like that mental, excuse me, I feel like that mentally you have to be there like going into surgery too, right? Like if you're going to come in that positive and say, like I said, like let's get this going, like let's move, like let's go, right? if I didn't like, I feel like if you don't have that attitude, like your chances, honestly, it's just, you're putting it on the universe that your success is there. So you might as well take it. Right. So, and then he just came through on his promise. And it, like, I don't think I thought about it, but then it all just hit me. I'm like, oh, wow, this guy's here now. And he made true. And like, I'm a word is gold kind of guy, you know? So like, that meant a lot to me, you know? So
Yeah, yeah.
it was, to your point, I don't think it's a characteristic that's probably widely spread throughout the medical community, you know?
Yeah, normally I hear the stories of, and then the anesthesiologist was giving me a countdown. Like, all right.
Yeah, yeah. It was super meaningful for me and something I'll never forget.
Okay, so at this point you're in and out of a coma, right? And so how many times do you think you kind of popped up before you slipped back away? Because I mean
Oh,
you remarked the one with the crick in the neck.
yeah. That was might have been 2 minutes. I
Okay.
mean, something like that. It wasn't. I don't think it was long. That's a better question for my wife. But yeah, I don't think it was long. The next thing I remember was them taking the ventilator out, and that's where I remember like, okay, now,
Mm.
because like it's not a pleasant feeling at all getting that thing taken out of your mouth. Um, because it's there to keep you alive. You know, something I didn't mention at all is that my they put me on the heart lung machine for 6 minutes. So, you know, I was operating off of a machine, not my heart, for 6 minutes. So that's you know, crazy to think too. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's something you know, just for everybody to know is that you do come back with a murmur of type. You know, so and then I've got that going on, and you know, it's normal. It's not a big deal. It's just, you know, moving forward. But you know, it's something. It's just something that astonishes me that the medical community is able to stop your heart, do the surgery that needs to be done within a short period of time, and then restart it, and your body's just like, oh, this is your heart. This is how it works. Okay, let's just continue business as usual. You know, it's really interesting. Um, Something that I've been able to do is educate myself pretty much in depth with everything, because I like to be educated in things, especially things that happen to me or that I'm going to be doing, you know what I mean? So I've gone down the rabbit holes quite a few times, just, you know, getting up to breath with all the medical terminology and how your body works and what the whole, you know, how they go through surgery and all that stuff. So you know, it's really intriguing. And I think that's maybe what helps me keep things at ease a little bit more, is just because I can speak about it. I know about it. You know, I have a little bit more clarity to it. Um, it just kind of settles my stomach a little bit more. And, you know, I don't know if that's just for me, but I would definitely recommend to anybody, you know, just, you know, research it, you know, try, you know, there's obviously communities out there, you know, I've seen the forums and the Facebook page, you know, going through people, for the Aortic Hope, forums and whatnot. And, you know, it's information's out there, you know, chat GBT's got plenty for you.
Yeah, it
You know,
does.
so just keep up to speed on that kind of stuff. It's really, I think it's important, you know, and it was important for me.
Yeah, I agree. What's interesting though is the people that believe and swear by the ignorance is bliss thing just will never talk about it, and it's a weird thing. It's like, that was just a bad day for me, and I'm moving on. Like, what? Are you sure? Like, there's more.
Yeah,
When
well,
it
you know what? I
Oh, go ahead.
feel like the more you know, the more you know about it too, is while you're in that environment with the doctors, you can ask the better questions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's better to, I would say it's better to go through, like if you're gonna have that type of surgery, like, you know, yes, it's scary, but the more abreast you are on the information, you can ask the questions to kind of settle in, because a lot of the time, me personally, I think that if you've got a question mark over something, then you're going to be more fearful of that situation, right? So if you're able to make that question mark into a period, then less fear involved, right?
I like that. Yeah, get rid of the squiggle. Yeah.
Yeah.
So um, you go straight to finding out what your limitations are. But before we get to that, I had a question about medications.
Yeah.
So like, how varied is your prescription box?
I have four medications that I take.
Okay.
So I take a beta blocker. I take the Losart. And so I'll give you guys the thing. Baby aspirin, Losartan, bisoprolol, and what's the last one? Drawing a blank. It'll come back to me. But yeah, 4 pills a day.
Okay.
So nothing too crazy. 5 o'clock. I take the very minimum because, like I said, they're not as concerned about my cholesterol and all that stuff. My cholesterol is very, very good. They want to keep me a little bit on the LTL. They want to keep me a little bit lower. Normal biomarker is 100. They want to keep me at 70 or below. So that's difficult to keep sometimes. But uh, I'm very I'm not big on medications. So
I can tell.
I like to I'd rather keep a low dosage and keep, control the controllable situation. And that's where the healthy eating and the consistent exercise and living in a healthy manner helps out, because if not, then I would have to take more medication, and I'm not for that. So
I hear you. I like it. Okay, so now let's get to the limitation testing. How far would you say you were walking when you get home, when you get to the pool? How many days did it take for you to walk around the pool?
oh I got a funny story about that. It's funny because the night that I came home from the hospital, my father-in-law and my mother-in-law were there, and our dog our dog Kira was on the floor, and I stepped over her. And my father-in-law like gave me like a little parade. He's like, "Oh my God, look, he just stepped over the dog." I thought it was great, man. It's stuck with me. But I think like within the next day, I was walking around the pool. Like as I got home, like they had me up in the hospital probably day 3 or 4. They're quick to get you up on your feet. They want you moving. And honestly, you want to be moving anyways, because that bed is not the comfiest. It's constantly moving up and down and air up and down. So, I tried to walk as much as possible in the ICU, and after they got me out of the ICU as well. So like I was walking around quite consistently. I'm a hard-headed individual when it comes to somebody telling me that I can't do something. So they told me I could walk and go for it. I'm like, all right, let's do it. So I would literally spend 45 minutes outside at a time just walking in circles and walking in circles, because like I'm fortunate enough that I had a lot of people checking up on me, so I'd get them on the phone, go outside, just keep on the phone and just keep on walking around the pool. So it's the best thing you can do for you after surgery. Helps with clots, it helps with healing, it helps with blood flow,
And for
all
life in
that stuff.
general. Yeah, and for life in
Yeah.
general. Just some nice
Yep.
walks in the sun.
Yeah.
So obviously when you were doing your research, right, you're seeing that all the data is about people that are kind of in their mid to late 60s and above. So there's no data for, I think we have maybe 6 or 7 people that I know of in the community that are in their mid 30s when this happened. No data, no idea what to expect. I believe we have a story from a gal that we collected in one of the support groups. She was 19. She had a connective tissue disorder known. And so, again, no data. There's no, you're not going to find out anything on that, especially the healing. The healing, like when you think about that 30-year difference, that's a huge difference in how fast you're going to stitch things back together. Yeah.
Yeah. And what's funny is that it's you're never fully healed either. Like, I'll do like one of these and like stretch like this, and all of a sudden I'll hear like a little crack, like my sternum like does a little pop. You know what I mean? Like you're never fully healed. It's still shifting around. It's still doing its thing. It's it's interesting because I would have never have thought that.
Yeah.
I would have never thought that. If I move certain ways, like the collarbone shifts a little bit, you know what I mean? Like it's never fully, you're not supposed to have your chest opened up, So, um, yeah, so there's not a lot of information out there either for individuals my age. And I just you have to take what you can and eat with take the information you can and apply it to your life.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's tough because at the same time you think like, why me, and it's also like, well, just sometimes it's just the way life is and you just got to move forward.
Yeah. Marvel Marathon, favorite Marvel movie?
What my favorite?
Yeah.
I don't think I'm not a favorites guy, man. I couldn't tell
All
you. My
right. All
kids
right.
ask me all the time. They're like, what's your favorite this? I just don't have favorites, man.
Fair enough.
I like them all. They're all great though.
All right. So you say, and I quote, went back to full force lifting. Right. So my question here is, are you going to continue with heavy weights or are you doing moderate weights with extra reps?
You know what? I do lesser weights with more reps. Just because they want to keep me under 45 pounds, for the most part, and as long as I can have a conversation while I'm lifting. I do a lot of body weight, a lot of cardio. Roughly what it's a lot of weight still, but I intermix it. What I think of it is like functional fitness, like trying to get away from zombies. That's what I think of.
I
Like, let me
like it.
keep in shape to stay away from zombies. So a lot of pull-ups, a lot of push-ups, a lot of lunges, stuff like that. Nothing too heavy. I don't do squats anymore. I don't do deadlifts anymore. When I look back, the only possibility that could be that we could allude this to is that maybe I was just lifting too heavy back then because I was 185 pounds lifting 300, deadlifting 300, like, but I was doing it safely,
Easy.
comfortably. We don't know. We
Right.
don't
But doing
know.
it
So
easy, right? That's the
easy.
problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah. So,
problem. What could
so
it have been? But this makes
yeah.
the Spartan races make more sense to me. What about like wall sits? Do you ever do like endurance wall sit?
What is it?
The wall sit, like just sitting with your back against
Oh,
the wall.
no,
You
no,
don't
no.
do
Never
those?
tried. Never tried. No, I don't
Yeah,
do too many
I
of
hear
those.
good things about that for when you're trying to you're trying to find something else that's not squats.
Okay.
That and the goblet with the swings, whatever those things are called.
Yeah. Yeah. The kettlebell swings and
Kettlebell
stuff like that.
swings.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll
I'm a
fit
big
those
fan
in
of
there. Yep.
those.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of those too. I like those because it reminds me of the deadlifts and stuff like
Yeah, it
that.
like
And
engages the
I enjoyed it.
quads. Yeah,
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 I enjoyed it back then. So, but yeah, I do a lot of those, and generally like 4 sets of 15 is my
yeah.
go-to. Usually, when I go to the gym, I do cardio, whether it's running or stairmaster for 15 minutes, and then I go work out for 45, and then I've got 15 minutes in the sauna, and
Okay.
then
Let's quantify this running. Like, how fast are we pushing this?
um, let's see. I did my 10K in an hour and 5 minutes, so that's like 10-minute miles, something like that.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, I haven't pushed it too much further. I probably could. My heart rate gets pretty high, it gets up to like 178, 180.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's comfortable. It doesn't bother me or anything like that. Um, but yeah, I try to, I signed up for more this year, so I've got a 21K Spartan at the end of the year,
Oh yeah,
um, which is going to be it's going to be interesting. It's 30 obstacles, 21K. So you're talking about what, like, it's basically a half marathon. I think it's like 13 miles, something like that. And then I also have an 8K trail run that I got involved, and then I have another 10K run somewhere in there too. So
how far
I've got a
away
few
or
different.
how far apart are these races?
These are
Like months wise or
one's
time wise?
one's September, one's October, and one's December.
Oh wow, so you're just packing them
Oh,
in. Yeah,
yeah. Well, you know what? Like, doing something in July in Florida is not pleasant
you're
at
right.
all.
It's probably a bad idea.
It's really hot and really humid and a lot of rain and stuff. So stay away from the summer months.
Right on. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your administration of the Spartan races. Right. So
Yeah.
you say that you really were just kind of looking to learn how to run the event. And so, do you have any words of wisdom for anybody who might be inspired to try to organize an event like this?
Um, yeah, I mean, it's like herding cats. It's not easy, right? You have to get people to commit and then recommit because honestly, like if somebody does something 2 months out from an event, that they're committed at that point, but are they committed, the day of the event, 2 months later, so keeping a reminder. The administrative part is relatively easy. It's multitasking, getting people, registrations and communication. Communication's a big piece of what I do for a living. So I like to communicate and I like to make sure people are aware of what's going on. So um, I have that as a soft skill that I use every day. So it's something that just takes practice. So if you're unfamiliar with it, it just takes practice. You're going to screw up. I sent out a note yesterday or the day before that this event was in June, and so I had to send out another follow up and say, hey, I was wrong. It's actually 2 days from now. So, admitting your faults sometimes is completely okay. But you know what? I've come to find to realize that the quote, if you build it, they will come, is 100% true. Like if you do something and you think that, oh, no one's going to want to get involved and nothing's going to happen and you're nervous about it, go through it with it anyways. Even if you end up being the only person at the end of the day, you should just be proud of yourself that you did it. And then it gives you the learning lessons for the next time, right? So um, the first time what I learned is that I need to, you know, when we meet, have a good meeting spot, make sure everybody's aware of the wait times, because registering for and getting yourself involved in Spartan's fine, it's easy. But like the day of, you've got like the park that we went to is a park that doesn't normally have 5,000 people come into a park. So you have to figure out like, okay, well, there's going to be traffic and there's going to be wait times and there's going to be, you need to find out where the meeting spots are, so, you know, I think a quick Google of making sure like what some checklists are, maybe make a checklist first. So that way you've got a running list of what needs to be done. And then communicating it and over communicating it. And, just believing in yourself is like most important, for me is just making sure I've had the pleasure of getting multiple events in multiple different faceted categories, whether it be for work or outside of work or whatever it might be. So, I've been able to lean on that with that experience. But going back to the first time I've ever done anything, it was always the mental hurdle of, are people going to show up? Are people going to care? And they will. They will care. There will be people that show up. And if they don't show up after they said they're going to show up, it's not anything personal. It's something that you just have to take with a piece of life and say, you know what, they had good intentions. It just didn't work out for them. So, just staying positive about the whole situation and having a to-do list is probably the most important.
Those are great. That's great advice. Solid advice. We've been joined in the chat by Dee and Ken. Ken's joining us from Australia. Brisbane,
Oh, awesome.
Australia. Yeah, Ken, we love Ken. Dee has a question here. She says, thank you for your time today and speaking. What was the name of that device again?
Oh, it was the Whoop strap. So I wear this thing every day, sleep with it. Now it's gotten even more advanced. They have blood pressure monitoring, and it gives you a ECG like on the spot and like all these cool things. So it's very intuitive. If you're a numbers person, if you're an analytics person, like it's like your Apple Watch but on steroids. So it monitors your HRV, your heart rates, your sleeping patterns, and then it gives you suggestions of like what, okay, you had 2 glasses of wine last night. This is how it affected everything. Okay, this is how it affected your sleep. This is how it affected this. Oh, you went on a 10-mile run yesterday. This is how it affects everything, and then it gives you like what your optimal strain should be, like how much you should be pushing yourself, and it adapts to your body. So I've been wearing this thing for almost 3 years now, I think.
Okay.
And I love it. Like I've gotten some people at work involved at it. It's just I talk very highly. If you're familiar, there's an Aura ring out there as well. That's like another type of device. Also recommended if the Whoop strap. doesn't work for you. But yeah, I wanted something that would give me my biomarkers and by biometrics without having a watch face. So, and this hit the nail for me. So
That's
yeah.
excellent. I like that. The sleep monitoring on it, right? Did you
Mhm.
find out anything interesting about that?
I don't get as much sleep as I thought I did. That's for sure. So it gives you, you might fall asleep at 10 o'clock, but might not actually be asleep. You might be semi-awake, right? So it tells you all those things on like what your true sleep patterns are. And it tells you like which levels you're in too. How long are you in your REM sleep? How long are you in the stage before that? And all these different stages, the 4 different stages of sleep. So it tells you how much longer you should be and how to modify that and what activities are a benefactor of what activities, if you will. So it's pretty cool. Like I would highly recommend it. It gives you probably more than you would actually need, and then also feeds. So like we have at work, we have a part. What is it called? It's a Virgin Mobile thing, and it's basically it's like a lifestyle choice app. So with work, it basically funds you. Like so, as you get so many points, you make money back for the year. It's like $600 for the year, so on and so forth. It links up with that, so it uploads all the information to that too. So it helps like keep track of everything. So and it also works with Apple Health as well. So it's a intermediary between like multiple different diagnostic tools that you already use as well. And then it was helpful for me to gain points on my app. So
Oh, I like that. I like gamifying it very much.
yeah, I
Um,
feel like it helps for sure.
do you have any disparities between the readouts that you get from the Whoop strap that you do from like getting your blood pressure checked at the?
The blood pressure thing just came out.
Okay.
Literally, last week is when I got it. So I have to still calibrate it. And so, I mean, so far the last 2 nights, it seems to be pretty much on par with what my blood pressure cuff uses.
Okay.
Um, but it's still like I got to still mess with it more to give you like it's typical app disclaimer. It says it's not use your blood pressure cuff still.
No, no.
But
Even when you do have a blood pressure cuff, we tell people to bring it to the hospital with them and get it
and
calibrated,
double check.
just to be
Yeah.
sure. Even if it's like a few numbers off, what that range is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
The one I
So
use is I would recommend as well. It's a Xylene product. It's pretty good. It's pretty accurate.
okay. Well, you touched on getting your genes tested. Do you understand the chances of genetic inheritance? Did they talk you through this?
Yeah, yeah, we did talk through it, and my family doesn't have any history of any but like unknown causes of death or abrupt causes of death,
Mm,
and no genes that show any like
yeah.
tissue disorders or anything like that. I forget what it was. I think it was 80 or 100 biomarker. But with that being said, genealogy is very interesting because it might not be known.
Yeah.
It might be something that's undiscovered. It might not be something that is very apparent, and that's so it could be something genetic. It could be something that's out there, but it's just not known yet. So like
Yeah.
maybe down the road, maybe 10 years from now, we'll do a blood work panel and it comes back and that's what we figure out, but we just don't know. So like, you can keep on going down those rabbit holes and, the surgeon and the cardiologist and all those guys literally said it's a rabbit hole. You can go down it pretty far and still not find anything.
Hmm.
So, definitely take the standard, and at least see if that's something that's available for you and something that points out for you. But yeah, no, nothing in the family history that would, directly point to any aortic disorders or tissue disorders or anything like that. So, and that's again, like that's why I just keep on saying it's a dumb luck situation. It's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
literally we just don't know why, who, what, when, where, why, and sometimes it's hard to digest, but I just have to say, like, something you just got to move forward from. You
Mm-hmm.
can't sit on it for too long because it'll just destroy any momentum that you've got. So
Yeah.
um yeah.
And so the follow up question is, of course, there's the heritability of you passing it down. That's a 50% chance. And the current wisdom is start imaging 10 years before your incident, right? So you would start seriously monitoring at about 25 for your children, right?
Yeah.
And from the genes perspective, I want to say that we were told that we're looking at now more 5 to 6 years. We should see new iterations on that bandwidth versus 10 to 12.
Okay.
Right. So now we have a little bit more incentive to get those tests, redone every 5 years versus every 10 or so.
Yeah, and
But
the beauty of medical advancements is that full body scans are becoming a lot more mainstream, right? It's becoming more and more something that's up front and not as, because preventative care is becoming more of a topic rather than trying to cure yourself or trying to the after effect. We're very much more in front of everything nowadays. And you have these individuals out there like Andrew Huberman and Gary Brecka, and these guys are very much like, hey, you need to do these types of things to stay up front and keep your lifestyle healthy. So I'm very hopeful that in the near future it will just be a lot more available and a lot more insurance friendly, because that's the thing is that, like, right, we have to just about every time they want to do a full, they'd want to do a chest, midsection, and groin area for me as far as the CT scan. We always have to go back to the insurance company and say, hey, this is why, and this is this. You've been doing this for 3 years now. Why are you giving us problems? Like,
mm,
so that's another thing is that, be an advocate for yourself. Like, if the insurance company or somebody says no, like I said before, like, you need to be very persistent about you, because you're the only one that's going to be persistent about you. There's nobody else that's going to, the doctor's not going to all of a sudden just say, oh, the insurance said no, so we're going to do it anyways. That's not going to happen. Right. So, I think and something I want to do for my children is 100%. We're going to do full body scans and make sure that there's, nothing underlying in them. And, I'm excited about the future in technology and scientific advances. Very excited.
me as well. Me as well. Let me check in with the chat here. D says thank you. The whoop
Well,
strap. Excellent. Um, would you? I have. Those are all the questions that I normally ask. Plus, again, like your story, it was like 35 years old, 38 now. That's so young. That is so young for this condition, and to be and it gets caught, which is great. That's what we want to hear.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I said earlier, it's just you have to listen to your body. Anything can happen to anybody. And being so young and trying to live a healthy lifestyle, it's easy to get off the horse, right? But it's a lot harder to get back on. So my suggestion for everybody is just stay very adamant about your health and well-being. You know, and as I've said, like, just advocate for yourself. It's super important.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I don't think I would be here right now if it wasn't for me to raise my hand and say, let's go. Like, we need to do something about this right now. You
Right
know,
now.
so and you gotta take it into your own hands. So even that, it's just amazing to me. Like, when I always go back to sitting there in the waiting room and in immense pain, like, just screaming at the top of my lungs, and like, you would think that the first indication for a head nurse there would be like, this is important, and it wasn't. For whatever reason, it wasn't.
Mm.
So, like, I had to make it important, you know? And I don't think if I didn't make that phone call, and if I didn't make any of those phone calls, I just don't think, you know, it would have been as pleasant as it is now. So I appreciate the time. I appreciate you guys, you know, wanting to hear my story. You know, I appreciate everybody. If there's any friends and families out there, you know, I obviously appreciate you, and you know, just very appreciative in general.
Right on. Thank you, everyone. Michael, it's been fantastic. Fantastic hearing your story. Thank you very much for helping us share your story.
Thanks,
Do you want
Jeff.
to tell these people to like and subscribe? It's the thing that we get to do on YouTube.
Oh yeah, like and subscribe. Make sure you're you know, looking at this stuff, and you know, you're gonna hear more stories. So more stories, the better.
Right on. All right. Have a good weekend, everyone.
Happy Memorial Day.